Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bill Kennedy, and welcome to a webinar, Madam McLennan and Fish, All-Inclusive Boston. Let us introduce you to a Boston you may not know yet. Thank you all. I want to thank our panelists. I want to thank the audience, all of you who have joined us today, and all of the folks at Nutter for all the work to put this event together. I've had this series as a breakfast and lunch series for over 20 years, and many of you have been with me that long. And since last April, it's become a webinar, and we've had a number of events here at the office. And this event, when the campaign was announced, it just intrigued me as to how creative it was to think about not just the downtown or common events or common sites, but beyond. I mean, there's always, I'm going to use the word tension, but between the downtown and the neighborhoods, how they live together and thrive together. And so when I read about and heard about the announcement of this campaign, I reached out to Colette Phillips and then all of the folks on today's panel about doing today's webinar. So I want to thank you all for being with us today. In April, the city launched the All-Inclusive Boston campaign to showcase Boston's diverse tourism as part of the recovery from COVID-19. Tourism and hospitality is the third largest industry in Boston and the Commonwealth. This campaign aims to renew and reimagine how the city of Boston is perceived locally and beyond. According to Kate Davis, who's in the audience today, she's the director of the Mayor's Office of Tourism, Sports and Entertainment. Quote, the city from the get-go wanted a campaign that appealed to a diverse mix of tourists, but one that also would be an economic boost to businesses of color and workers of color, who are among the most hurt by the pandemic. All-Inclusive Boston aims to introduce the diversity and uniqueness of Boston's neighborhoods, particularly among women and minority-owned businesses and organizations. So welcome to all. And I look forward to this conversation today. I want to introduce the panel, Colette Phillips, who's an old dear friend of mine, and she's the president and CEO of Colette Phillips Communications, an award-winning marketing and communications firm and the first minority and women-owned public relations firm in the city of Boston. Welcome, Colette. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you. Darren Bascom, pleased to meet you, Darren. Darren is the founder of the Proverb Agency, a minority-owned agency located in the South End that focuses on building and creating a more thoughtful world around us. Proverb's team takes a deep, research-driven approach because the brands they create make an impact today, but also form the culture and economic vibrancy of tomorrow. Darren, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Bill.
Martha Sheridan. Martha is the president and CEO of the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. I'm just going to call it the Bureau, Martha. The Bureau is the official sales and marketing and visitor service organization charged with the development of meetings, conventions, and tourism-related businesses to enhance the economy of Boston, Cambridge, and the metropolitan area. And it has almost 1,200 member companies across New England as its members. Martha, thank you and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. And TJ Douglas is the co-founder of the Urban Grape. He co-founded the Urban Grape with his wife, Hadley, located in the South End of Boston, one of the most successful and award-winning wine stores in America. Black-owned and women-owned small business dedicated to building community through beverage. TJ, welcome, and thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to start the questions or the topics, and really the panel is able to add or freelance in any way they like. I just sort of offer these questions as conversation guides, and the conversation will take us where it does. Martha, as president of the Bureau, could you please describe for us the tourism industry in the city of Boston? What's the role of the Bureau, and what has the impact of COVID-19 been on tourism and tourism-related businesses, and particularly minority and women-owned? Martha?
Thank you, Bill. I was wondering, before we start questions, would we have an opportunity to just show the folks on the call a bit of the campaign?
Sure.
Yeah, that might be nice.
Just that, Darren, I know, has a deck, and then I'm happy to answer that question, and especially in light of the great news that we heard today. But is Darren able to share his screen, and we can just show you a few pieces of the campaign that won't take long?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, terrific.
Please, Darren.
And can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
I can.
Terrific. Much of the creative, really built upon a very comprehensive market study that was commissioned, on top of a very clear mandate from the city in terms of, wanting to both, drive net new revenue into the city and to try to support, a safe reopening. And then secondly, really looking at, how we can also support an equitable recovery. If we look at the communities that have been disproportionately impacted by COVID, they're largely Black, brown, and immigrant. Those communities are also the backbone of travel and hospitality. And so we, certainly wanted to be very intentional with the work that we did. But we also, didn't stop there. The market research, showed some obvious things, that the city is well known for its history and its,
Darren, I don't think your screen is moving.
Did that advance for everyone? Or?
No, I didn't.
No.
Shoot. You know what? I will. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'll just click through in this mode. And so the market research, showed a few things to us. One was that the city was well known for its history and well known for many of its points of interest, and even, its academic institutions and things along those lines. But we also found that the city was not as well known as a travel destination. And in the absence of that information, things like films about Boston, advertising about Boston, tended to sort of fill in the blanks. And in many ways, the city also has, a perception as being, a racist city. And and so as we started to think a bit about sort of how do we actually conceive of this campaign, the market research also revealed some really interesting points, that when people knew more about the city, in terms of our diversity, sort of learning about everything that happens, not just inside of between Fenway Park and the Freedom Trail, that we have 22 neighborhoods, that we've got sort of this burgeoning food scene, that we are sort of this bastion of culture. Their interests were piqued, and inside of that, we really saw this opportunity to reintroduce the city. Inside of the work that we did, we really wanted to try to do a number of things, to connect neighborhoods, to attract visitors, to increase visibility, to sort of demand representation. And we think that, that idea, is seminal, to our history. and to support small business and really start to shift the lens. And so the campaign is really sort of a way of taking a creative spin on a well-known travel phrase, all-inclusive, and really using it to expand and talk about all the things that you can access in a visit to Boston, but also all the types of people that are attracted to this city and call it home. And so we really wanted to do a number of things. We wanted to showcase everything from entrepreneurs to local artists, really looking at how we can present, everything in the city as being an icon, whether that's the MFA or a visit to Urban Grape or 50 Kitchen or the Blue Nile, and really wanted to sort of present, all of these places, as being incredibly special, showcasing, women-owned businesses, LGBTQ+, small businesses, and the like. And so, the campaign is really sort of centered on doing two things. The first being sort of, introducing ourselves, to ourselves. And so there's a significant push that we make here locally, and really wanting to get people to be, either, it could be as simple as, being more adventurous on where you order takeout from tonight, or thinking about things like a staycation, and then really sort of extending the reach to potential travelers who are within driving distance. So we go out as far as the tri-state area. And the last thing I'll just share with you is there is everything sort of pushes to All-Inclusive Boss, which is on top of the Boston USA website, where you can plan itineraries and things along those lines. And sort of the hero of our campaign is our video, which is narrated by Boston's Poet Laureate, Portia A. Waller.
Thank you for that. And
Oh,
I have a couple of questions, but how did
and Bill, do you mind if I just play this? It's about a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
Boston. It's the city you know, the city of history, the city of champions. But we are also a city of people, a city of resilient, passionate, determined, loving people who have overcome odds and stared down challenges. A city of cobblestones and corner stores, mom and pops, five-star shops, unwavering classics. This is a city where new voices are emerging, determined to work harder, dream bigger, and become stronger. Whatever you seek, whoever you are, there's a place for you here. An unexpected adventure, a fresh flavor, a sound you've never heard before. Our doors are open. Our tables are set. This is Boston, and we are all inclusive. Join us at allinclusiveboss.com.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
20 years ago or so, I was involved for the legislature in the legislation for the new convention center. And we did a lot of studies. We hired some consulting firms. And why did people think it would be successful? Was the answer was correctly said, because it's Boston. And I think we kind of took that for granted to some extent, but the success of that, in the area where my office is, the Seaport, has certainly made the case. And I think what you're showing now is we can move out from that and move beyond that. And I think that's a great point to make. Can I ask you how the partnership came together, Colette? How did you decide that the team you put together and the experience and the skills and so forth, why you decided to join together and make your presentation and bid for this opportunity from the city. Are you on mute, Colette?
That's a great question. And it's really about intentionality and deliberateness. From the very beginning, we wanted to stress a diverse team. And so I reached out to Darren, who is, in my book, just a brilliant creative genius who sort of knows how his work, knows his craft very well. And Darren always says that every good brand begins with a great story. And we believe that Boston has a wonderful story to tell. So I reached out to Darren to become my partner on this. And then we thought, why not another key partner would be the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau. They are the premier, best-in-class marketing arm for this city and for the hospitality and tourism industry. And what better way to bring three distinct institutions together? Because in some ways, my goal was to create what I call an inclusive procurement model, because this is really new. Here it is, we have this new model of a minority-owned company. My company, this was the recipient of the single largest contract that was non-construction in the history of the city. And for me, it was really important that we not only modeled it, but that we also made sure that we were inclusive in our subcontracting. So we had a lot of BIPOC companies and also small women, white-owned companies. And so we think that we have created a new model for the city and for others to emulate and follow. And as you can see from the results, it was really the right choice and the right thing to do. So that was really, it's intentional, it was deliberate, and it was all about being inclusive and to use that term, and deliberately so.
Did the RFP give a lot of direction to you, or was it open-ended? Did they give you a mission they wanted you to?
Yes, absolutely. And I basically give some props to Mayor Walsh and to Chief Kate Davis from the tourism office, because they were very specific about really wanting to change the narrative for Boston, and that we saw this campaign as having twofold: one for external, to people who wanted to come to Boston, and also to be sure to attract diverse visitors, because there are lots of people of color who come through Boston to the Cape, to the Vineyard, to Maine, to other places, but they don't necessarily come to Boston. So this campaign was about getting people of color to come to Boston and to tell Boston's story. I mean, I say this all the time, and I'm never going to get sick of saying it. My favorite line in this whole campaign is, maybe you don't know Boston. Yeah. And what Darren and his team has brilliantly done by rooting this in foundational research is really show Boston, the Boston that we know and love. And now everybody will see it. I just got tired of Boston being the butt of every comedic racist joke. We were, you know, everybody said Boston is the most racist city, on and over and over. I'm hoping that this campaign will change that narrative for good.
Well, that was the quote I was going to ask you about was that quote where you said the campaign is an opportunity to change the narrative about Boston and to show the rich diversity and all that our neighborhoods have to offer. So why do you, I'm jumping ahead, I know, but why do you think a campaign like this is needed? And what is the narrative that is needed to be changed?
Can I take that one, Colette?
Yes, take that one,
Thank you.
Martha.
So I think that my partners will chime in here. So I started in my role 2.5 years ago at the CVB, and I think it's no secret that we are one of the most underfunded tourism promotion agencies in the country for a city of our size, and even the Commonwealth in general. So the stories that have been told about Boston were not of our design. They were told by others because we weren't able to create narratives and far-reaching campaigns to tell people about what Boston is like here and now. When we did the research, that became very clear to us that while much of what people thought about Boston was true, a lot of what they thought about Boston was developed based on, as Darren likes to say, popular culture, movies, junkies, and it was just this really outdated perception of Boston as a predominantly male white city that is full of sports champions, which is really great, but didn't really have much in the way of diversity. So we really needed to develop this campaign in a way that would allow us to tell the story of Boston that we now all know and love. And I think it's been incredibly successful so far, and really thrilled with the results thus far.
Why did you feel that, I asked you about the Bureau, why did you feel that it was the proper, or the appropriate, I should say, partnership for the Bureau to become part of?
Well, the RFP actually stated that whoever bids on this contract would need to work with a tourism promotion agency. So Colette was actually the only agency that reached out to us. And this beautiful partnership was born. By the way, we had never met in person. We developed this entire campaign virtually. Colette and I had met once prior, and Darren and I had never met. Our first in-person meeting was at a photo shoot about a month ago when we launched the campaign.
Right.
And Darren was 6'6". They had no idea that I was 5'1", so it was a pretty funny meeting. But yeah, so I think what worked out really well is the fact that this campaign is very different from what CVB has done before, but we were also able to leverage our existing assets, such as the high traffic volume on our website, the high following numbers on our social media, and use all of those assets to push this campaign out. So it really was a marriage made in heaven as far as I'm concerned.
I was taken, Darren, by each of the quotes that I have here that I was going to ask each of you, was you were surprised that things have changed, but the reaction during your research didn't seem to show that people still had. Now, someone like me goes back to some of the incidents in Boston that have hurt us over the years, whether it's school busing, whether it's this or that. But could I ask you, Darren, what drew you to the partnership? And as I said, one of your quotes was that things have changed, and you're surprised that hasn't been appreciated outside the city as much.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I was born and grew up in Bermuda. I came to Boston to go to college about 35 years ago. I've raised a family here. I've launched a successful company here. And the city that I came to, in the late 80s, is a very different city than the one that we have today. I mean, Boston has become, more diverse. It's become more global. It's become hipper. It's become more innovative. There have never been more languages spoken in the city than right now. There are so many things that just didn't exist at that time. If you look at, just the quality and sort of the health of the hospitality scene, or the art scene, or things along those lines. And so for us, we really saw this as an opportunity to reintroduce the city. The version of Boston that's in that video is a version that sort of me and friends of mine often enjoy, whenever I have, someone who's coming into town to visit, and oftentimes, on the other side, of a night out, we're able to sort of expand their appreciation for what the city has to offer. I would also say that, we've tried to create something that helps to make the city more competitive. We think that in being a place that's perceived as being sort of more welcoming to more types of people, allows you to, build smarter, more innovative companies. At Proverb, we're big believers that powerful brands are always connected to purpose-driven organizations. And so we tried to approach the campaign to inject an additional sense of purpose into the city.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that. I know that the campaign features, as members in the campaign, they're on the video, a number of small businesses. And you say, Darren, that you wanted to show, just not tell the story of a new Boston featuring entrepreneurs of all of color. Why did you include participants? How are they part of the campaign?
Yeah. So we both, and what's interesting is that this whole campaign is happening at lightning speed, and we're trying to figure out how do we, safely photograph, people in the height of a pandemic and what have you. But, what we really tried to do was to lift up sort of many different voices, and so it's entrepreneurs of color, but there's also the LGBTQ+, there are women-owned, entrepreneurs, and others, and at the same time, we're also presenting, some of the well-known icons of the city, but trying to do that in a way that feels welcoming, whether that's seeing the MFA with lawn chairs out front, or showing Fenway Park, in the midst of a concert, and so what we really have tried to do, throughout all of this is to, help serve up sort of authentic experiences that might be a little bit off the beaten path, alongside things that the city is well known for.
Well, the video captured that because I see you had Mike's Pastry in the North End. Of course, the big debate is who has the better cannoli, Mike's or across the street at Martin. And that's always a debate among us Bostonians. Where do we go? TJ Douglas has joined us. TJ, welcome. And he's one of these businesses. And so TJ, can you describe the challenges that you've had, you and your wife Hadley, as a minority-owned business in the city? If you can talk about that, why the South End? What was your vision for Urban Grape as you conceived it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we opened up our first store in 2010 in Chestnut Hill, and our second one, our current location here in the South End, in 2012. And one of the harder things that came down to us being a minority-owned business and a woman-owned business was finding, and an interracial couple, was finding a safe place where we can build a business, right? Finding a place where I would feel physically safe in my own space, finding a place where my wife and my kids could feel comfortable, and be in a place, find that location where I would feel that the community would want me there and want us there. So that was a big challenge. Another challenge is, here I am, a Black man in the wine industry, And the wine industry has always been marketed as a very elite product, and it's in a very elite industry. And you know, when you take that industry and you put yourself into a brick and mortar, trying to find brown and black people that are interested in wine to come work for you, it's very hard. And then it's also hard to find brown and black people that will become your customers. Because if they're not marketed to and they don't know that you exist, they're not going to come find you. And you know, when we created the Urban Grape, I was already in hospitality and wine for about, I don't know, maybe 15 years prior to that. And I've typically been the only person of color, you know, in that room, on that, you know, trip to Italy, you know, at a beverage conference. And when we started the Urban Grape, we wanted to be able to create a place where we can help take the intimidation out of wine, but also help build community through beverage. So when we talk about wine, you know, we might talk about, you know, the flavors of cherry and strawberry, but we also look at like the equity and how that final product from the vineyard to the bottle happened. And we really look at our world through the lens of a wine glass, right? Because wine's grown everywhere. And we wanted to bring that into our four walls. And, you know, we've been successful since then, but there's been a lot of challenges, but a ton of successes as well, Bill.
Why did being part of this campaign have an attraction for you in terms of being part of the All-Inclusive Boston campaign?
Yeah, well, first of all, Darren, you're and your team, man, you guys rocked out on that. When that came out and I sort of, you know, people's Instagram started blowing up, I'm like, yes, it's so amazing. So you know, kudos to you on that. You know, being part of this campaign, it's just an opportunity to get, you know, my face out there to communities so that they can see someone in my industry, right? And they're like, hey, you know what, like, that guy, you know, he owns a wine store, or hey, that woman owns a wine store. You know what? I usually go to this place, but I don't really know about wine. It's kind of scary. Let me go spend my money there for a minute, and let's see what's up. Let's see if I'm welcomed in their space. And so, you know, I've had friends and clients, and you know, Maverick Square and South Bay, and by the Children's Museum, you know, taking selfies in front of, you know, our billboard. Of, you know, of Hadley and I being down there. And that's just so amazing. And, you know, being able to be a part of this, you know, amazing campaign shows people that my industry that I love is for them, you know, and it amplifies my voice. And, you know, it allows me, you know, that there's actually a cash value in that as well. You know, since this campaign started, we have more brown and black people that have visited our store than pre-pandemic. How did they hear about us? You know, do they read the Boston Globe? Do they read Improper Bostonian? Do they read any of these? And if not, well, they saw, you know, my face while they were going to Target. Like, and that's extremely important. That gave me more access as a business owner. And so there's all good coming out of this.
Well, certainly, you know, you folks during the pandemic, if you can talk a bit about a few things that you've done that I'm aware of, but what impact, if any, that's a broad question, did the COVID-19 have on your business, and how did you respond?
Well, I just say, thank goodness I sell alcohol, because, you know, COVID was good to the alcohol business as a whole. But what Hadley and my team and I did at the Urban Grape, you know, we've always run ourselves as a very transparent company. And, you know, we told our community, our listeners, our viewers, our social media followers, our customers, the steps that we were going to take so that we could support them and they can continue to support us. And we started off maybe the first week or two during the pandemic with, you know, limiting people coming in and asking for masks. And then we just realized, you know, the numbers were shooting up. And so we actually decided to close the store for customers coming in, Bill, for 54 weeks. We only reopened 3 weeks ago. And during that time, we realized that we always needed to, you know, if our customers couldn't come to us, we needed to meet them where they were. And so where they were was, you know, out by 495. And, you know, we're luckily we're one of the lucky businesses here in Boston and actually around the country that was able to get a good amount of PPE funding, but that started from a great bank relationship and a good bookkeeper, right, to do that. And we use that to increase our 401k, paid health insurance, full-time delivery drivers from 1 to 4 and 4 vans. So we got to go further. We used a local artist to custom build our outdoor wine counter, which allowed customers to safely shop behind plexiglass. We used a local person to redesign our website and to have great photos taken from another local artist to really let people shop at the Urban Grape and understand kind of like the energy that we have, but doing it safely from their phone or their tablet, and we could deliver to them or pick up from them. But using PPE money and having the store closed, the goal was to keep our staff and our community safe as possible. And alcohol was able to do that. And what's great is that, we ended up giving the people that worked for us already, we ended up giving them pay raises, because we knew that, their partners are at home, or if their kids are in school or something, there's going to be a little bit less money coming in during a pandemic. So we increased their pay. We brought on people that were out of work. We made sure that health insurance was paid. We bought them lunch all the time. We gave them stipends to, take Ubers or park their car in a garage so they could keep safe from taking public transportation. We really did a lot, but, really in a blink of an eye, it was 54 weeks.
Well, Colette, the Urban Grape, how do you duplicate this success during this time through your campaign in other parts of the city, whether it's Dorchester, Roxbury, East Boston, whatever it might be? How do you then take what Hadley and CJ have done and sort of duplicate that elsewhere? Are there other examples of it?
Oh, Colette, you're on mute. Colette, you're on mute.
Mute. I keep forgetting. I'm doing Zoom for a year and I still forget to unmute. I was saying that TJ and Hadley are the perfect example of what Martha, Darren, and myself and the city had in mind to really lift up the small businesses that are the economic engines of those communities. So we actually have a website, All Inclusive Boss, that you should go to. And Martha and her team have done a phenomenal job of having on that website access to small businesses. We are also working with the city's small business office. The Get Connected GK Market is also a link on that site. So it's a great way to really lift up businesses that are in the community and to encourage people. This summer, the Greater Boston Convention and Visitors Bureau and my Get Connected are partnering to do a taste of ethnic Boston, which will include a lot of the restaurants that we don't get to see in Boston Magazine or on the Boston Globe's food pages, but that are just as terrific. But they're located in Dorchester, in Hyde Park, in Jamaica Plain. And so people get to really experience our neighborhoods, all 23 of them.
Right. I wanted to catch one point to TJ. TJ, could you talk to us about something that you've done? I mentioned it earlier about with Boston University and the school day to study wine. And when I called the store to schedule this event with you, I talked to a woman who answered the phone, and I told her I had been on one of your events where you gave the scholarships out. And the woman said, I was one of the recipients. That was Amanda, I believe her name was. Could you talk about a little bit of what you're doing there, and also how you've had pop-up restaurants that you've teamed with? Just, and then I'll move on to Darren. But I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, let me hit on the restaurants first. Community is extremely important to really any business, but for our business, we've had people that have proposed to their partners in our store. We've had people that have, bought wine to lay down for their kids 20 years from now. We've sold bottles of whiskey to people that had people coming over for a wake to celebrate the life of someone that they've lost, right? Like our business, it's good times and in bad times, and we want to be involved with our community. And the pandemic was a bad time for most people, including so many of my friends that are in restaurants, whether they're owners or busboys or bartenders. And what we decided to do to help really continue to build community through our platform of beverage is that in October of 2020, we started doing these restaurant pop-ups for restaurants that were closing to keep cash in their bank account, and we would sell their two-person meals every single Tuesday to our customers if we wanted to pair with a bottle of wine or not. But we did this at cost. If something cost $48 from a restaurant, we sold it for $50 to cover our credit card charge swipe, being transparent, letting our customers know that we were doing this. And since October, and I think it's a little bit higher now, but since October, as of last week, we've raised over $80,000 for our local restaurants in so many of these areas. And, that's, I'm assuming, kept the lights on for not only some restaurants, but also for that bartender, for that busboy who might be living in Maverick Station near where my face is right now with 6 other people in an apartment, right? And so we ended up doing that, and we continue to do that. And now, Bill, mentioning Amanda, when about 2019, we reached out to Boston University and the Metropolitan College and their gastronomy program, and we wanted to create educational pathway of access to the wine industry, right? There's not a lot of Black people in wine because there's not a lot of grocery stores and a lot of Black neighborhoods. So how is there going to be a wine shop if there's not fresh produce, right? So, hitting it up from the systemic side, we wanted to provide a space for free education. And, I feel that education is great, but you also need practical work experience, and then you also need ongoing mentorship. So in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, we had the best, it was actually after the BLM march here in Boston, we had the best sales day as a 10-and-a-half-year-old company. On that June 1st, we took that profit from that day, and we created the Urban Grape Wine Studies Award for students of color at Boston University. And I'm proud to say, as of 3 weeks ago, we actually hit our goal of $200,000, which to celebrate and to honor the loss of George Floyd this month. We're starting the application process to endow this, which will put 2 students like Amanda and Suhail through this program in perpetuity. And our first 2 students are already halfway through the program this year. And we put applications out for our next 2 students that close on June 30th. So anyone can check us out at Urban Grape, or even go to the Boston University website. But this is great. This is really going to change the landscape of who belongs in this industry, right? Because we all belong in this industry. And it's going to be a very organic approach to seeing more brown and Black people as restaurant wine people, working in the front of the store, working for a wholesaler as the importer, and not just the warehouse worker. And so, yeah, we stopped our fundraising, and we really have proof of concept here in Boston, and we're working with the Boston Foundation in terms of just educating ourselves of how do we turn this into a 501c3 and do this for other cities and universities and gastronomy programs around the country, and eventually some HBCUs. So with that, there's a lot going on, but it just shows that, Boston is a lovely place. There's a lot of people with great hearts, and their eyes and ears are open right now, and they're always looking to support. And, something like this campaign right here, it's just gonna, get our faces and our voices and our purpose out to more people.
Thank you. Darren, now that you've won the contract and the bid, and let's hypothetically say I'm a prospective business person, and I want to open up a business in the neighborhoods of the city of Boston. and maybe it's Jamaica Plain, maybe it's Rosendale Square, whatever it might be. Tell me about the campaign. Now that you've won it, what is the strategy? Why should it interest me as I consider where to put my business? And how will you combine the marketing of the neighborhoods with my business and with the recovery from the pandemic? How's this campaign going to do that?
No, terrific, and thank you for this. So we're currently in market, and while the initial investment from the city was $2.5 million, that's both a lot of money and not very much, given sort of our ambitions, and that the lion's share that went towards paid media. It's everything from out of home, which is billboards, street furniture, things along those lines. The lion's share of this is through digital display, and that's both on websites and through social media. We're making a significant push through influencers. There's both terrestrial and streaming services that we're using as well in order to be able to get the word out. And then lastly, really looking at how we can strategically partner with companies within the city, and it's both, sort of smaller independent businesses. A couple of weeks ago, Wayfair stepped up, and have taken the campaign on, both in terms of sharing it on their platforms. They're also now using it as a part of their suite of recruitment tools when they make offers to new employees. The video is part of that offer. To us, we think that we've been able to create a really strong framework, that others can use to advance their ideas. We're also currently, working with the city to look at a second push, as a part of this effort.
As
So I can add to that quickly, if you don't mind. So our agency was already working to promote neighborhoods prior to this RFP coming out, but due to our lack of funding, it was really tough to gain much traction. We have developed several videos for some of the neighborhoods around Boston that aren't traditional tourist destinations. But what this campaign really did was it allowed us to sort of put our money where our mouth is, and it's more than just a one-off campaign. And I think that's sort of what Darren was trying to say. This has now ingrained itself in our DNA at the CVB, such that we are developing partnerships, new and unique partnerships every day with people and organizations in these neighborhoods that will be sustainable relationships and will, I think, allow us to continue to promote every neighborhood in Boston as we move forward. So this has a lot of legs to it, and hearing TJ's story and the response that he's received from it just really reiterates the fact that it is important that we invest, because without investing, those billboards wouldn't be there, right? And it's I credit Mayor Walsh and then Chief Linehan and Chief Barrows for leading this charge early on, and I credit Mayor Janey and her team for carrying the torch. And as Darren said, investing even more in this campaign so that it will continue to go on. It's not going anywhere. It's never going away. We are here to stay. It's not a one-off. So if you're opening a business, you should talk to TJ and understand how this can impact you, and places like Daryl's Kitchen and just some of the smaller businesses, not that Daryl's is that small, but that haven't really had this recognition before. They're here to stay, we're here to stay, and we're going to continue to work together.
Well, the challenge from someone that's been here is, Boston is a city of neighborhoods, and the bad part of that has been we've become a little bit self-contained within them. So to get people to step out of them or step in them is a challenge, Colette. It really is.
Well, you're absolutely right. If you think about when people go to New York, they don't just stay around Broadway and Manhattan. They're now going out to Brooklyn, and they're going to Tribeca, and they're going to different parts of New York when they go there to visit. And that's exactly what we hope to do with this campaign, is to get people to, yes, be very engaged and involved with the traditional aspects of Boston, but to also be able to look beyond just the downtown. And what's brilliant about this campaign is that it's really connecting the downtown with the neighborhoods. And our neighborhoods, as you know, Bill, because I've been here for 40 years, came here when I was 17 years old to go to school. And, you know, the neighborhoods have become so vibrant and so culturally diverse. I like to say, for example, in East Boston, you're born Latino and you die Italian, because the older people in East Boston are Italian, but the new up and coming immigrants are Latinx. So, and many of the cities, including South Boston, very vibrant, very diverse. And I think it plays right into the narrative of this campaign, that Boston truly is diverse and inclusive, and that we have people of all cultural backgrounds living in all of our neighborhoods. And that's what makes this rich, special, vibrant, and all inclusive.
You see the neighborhood vibrancy. I don't know if they're following or they're leading the sort of real estate push, as you and I have seen.
Right.
You know, the neighborhoods now are hot in the real estate market, whether it's parts of Roxbury or Dorchester or wherever it might be, East Boston. South Boston, of course, is a prime example of where that's happened. You know, all the restaurants on Broadway and the Seaport. But coming out to parts of Lower Mills, where I live, is very hot on the real estate market now. And as a result, there's places along the avenue that are now coming up. So I think they're following that. I just have one question in terms of, have you, Colette, interacted with some of these entrepreneurs, and what do they say is their biggest challenge?
Well,
businesses that are there.
I would say that we are partnering now with the Black Hospitality Coalition. And one of their biggest challenge has been just the reopening and the recovery. And that's why I think Martha was so excited today to hear the good news from Charlie Baker. Not everybody did what TJ and Hadley did, was not panic, but pivot, because a lot of these smaller businesses, some of them didn't have the capacity to necessarily pivot. Some of them didn't even have a digital presence, like a website. So I think this is one of their biggest challenge, is having lost a lot of funding, how are they going to reopen? And I think that's one of the things that the Black Hospitality Coalition has done. They have actually decided to raise funds so they can support smaller restaurants with setting up outside sidewalk tables and all the things you need to practice social distancing and still be, you know, viable and vibrant.
How will you, panel, how will you judge or assess the success of the campaign? Short term, long term? How will you determine if it has impacted race relations or minority businesses in the city of Boston?
I can start with that answer, just to say that the campaign has built-in measurement tools so that we can actually track the visitor experience from the time they see an ad to whether or not they've booked a flight or a hotel room, et cetera. And then also we've referenced our research a lot, but that was a huge investment for us. the fact that we made that move was so important, not only to form the campaign and riff off of what we learned, but also we can use that research as a baseline so that in a year from now, if we invest more and keep investing in this campaign, we can go back out to the market with that research and see if we've shifted any perceptions of the city of Boston. So there are ways for us to externally measure the effectiveness of this campaign.
Darren, what would you have to see or hear or feel to say we're hitting the mark that we want to hit?
Yeah, I would say a few things, and one to just build on Martha's points in terms of what we're seeing in terms of engagement. With the campaign thus far has been exceptional. Ordinarily, if someone stays with a video for 15 seconds, that's considered to be a win in advertising. We found that over 80% of the close to the over 1 million streams that we've been able to achieve inside of the time that we've been in market, 70% of those views make it all the way to the end. I would say in terms of things that would be great indicators, I would say, sort of seeing seeing people of all backgrounds in all parts of the city. I think that that's really sort of the leading indicator. Seeing that comfort level that TJ spoke about earlier in terms of, whether that's in cultural institutions, whether that's in our academic institutions, whether that's in our retail stores, and that's in the downtown, and in our neighborhoods.
We focused on restaurants and wine stores. Boston, as you all know, has a great sense of history as well and attractions. On the phone today in the audience, we have John Linehan from the Franklin Park Zoo. We have Maura Hammer from the JFK Library. We have David Leonard from the Boston Public Library. As you know, the historical associations from each of the neighborhoods have a relationship with the library. We have Anthony Samarco's books that are all on the Boston neighborhoods. It's a great series that he's put together over the years that people should take a look at, because each of the neighborhoods have a great sense of history beyond Bunker Hill and beyond, Faneuil Hall, the history. There's more, and it's harder to convey that sometimes, but it's there. As I always ask a question, Colette, about hope since COVID-19. What is your hope, in each of the panel, TJ included, what is your hope for the city of Boston as a city where all of its businesses and its people can be successful and feel welcomed? Small question, I take it. But...
A small question. I would say that my hope for this city has always been what drives me. It is what caused me to get connected. It's my passion. It's about bringing people together. And I think that Darren, as the creative mind behind this campaign, has done that. This campaign truly have gotten people together. And I think we are stronger together as a city. We are Boston strong. This city's vibrancy, its history of being a place that welcomes people, immigrants. People talk about New York and Ellis Island. Boston is really where it all started. The American Revolution, the first person to die was a Black man, Crispus Attucks. So Boston has that deep-rooted history. You think about the abolitionists. It started here in Boston, Black and white people working together for the common good. And if anything that we should learn from this campaign and from the way in which this procurement was done with the inclusion and the diversity, is that when we work together, regardless of cultural backgrounds, everybody wins. It's not musical cheers. When the music stops and you're not in front of a cheer, you lose. It's about the Thanksgiving table. You open up the table, you add more chairs, you have more food. Everybody gets to sit at the table. Everybody gets to have a meal, whether you're a vegan or you are, you like wine or you like bourbon, whatever it is. Everybody gets to have a meal and participate, and it's a win. So that's my hope for Boston, and hope that this campaign will begin to really change that narrative about our city, and for people to begin to recognize that the Boston Martha and you and Darren and TJ knows is not the Boston that is out there. This is the real Boston, an all-inclusive Boston, one that is built on diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Thank you for sharing that. TJ, thank you, Colette.
Thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
just after that, after Colin, I think that should just be a mic drop and we say, all right, thanks for having us. We're out, right?
Oh, I know. Beautiful.
My hope for Boston is like Colin said, but what I love about this campaign is that it encourages intentional exploration, and makes places of business or museums or places of education intentional destinations as well. And we take our community of maybe our 4 blocks. We live in JP now, and this is my community here, but Boston is our community. But if we don't know what's on the other side of town, we're never going to be able to expand our community. I mean, especially coming out of this pandemic, I want to meet more people. I want to go explore. I want to learn. I want to see what's up with my city. And to kind of go back to one of the questions just briefly, you asked how are you going to how are you going to see the numbers kind of reflect, paraphrasing, of course, on this campaign? Well, I can look at our delivery sheet of 100 deliveries a day, and we're going to different places than we were 3 or 4 months ago. We're going to Hyde Park on a daily basis. We're going to Everett. We're going to Brockton, right? We're going to all these places that we didn't go to before. And I feel that our customer base, therefore our community, is expanding. And my hope is that continues, and that we have more of these amazing videos and bigger and broader campaigns, because it's just going to be a bigger Thanksgiving dinner table. So
Thank you. Thank you, TJ, for being with us today. Martha, from your view as the Convention Bureau?
Well, I would say I feel like we've turned a page in so many ways over the past year. It's been, your first question to me was, what has the virus done to our industry? And it's been devastating for us. And, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but it sort of leveled the playing field in Boston, because all businesses were taken down, no matter how successful you were and no matter how big you were. And today we're turning a page. The governor just announced reopening at the end of May, which is huge for us. And I feel like this campaign, and my hope is that this campaign and the timing of this campaign is going to lift all businesses up collectively at the same time now. And, it was an equalizer, unfortunately, in not a good way. The virus was an equalizer in a really bad way. We've been devastated across the board, whether it's an 1,100 room hotel or a 30-seat, restaurant in Roxbury. Everyone's feeling the same kind of pain. And I feel like now we can move forward collectively and together towards recovery that is far more equitable. And I do think we're going to do that. I have great hope. And I really am expecting that we are going to come out of this a much better city and a much better tourism industry.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Darren, you want to wrap up for us here with this question?
Perfect. No, thank you for that. Yeah, so at Proverb, all of our work really centers on this idea of looking at how we can help to build vibrant communities through placemaking and place branding. And And so a lot of what we do involves, commercial real estate of many different types. We work with cultural institutions, we work with, academic institutions, municipalities, and so for us, we're always looking at like, how do you, sort of reintroduce a place? And I would say that, our goal inside of this is for the city to be better known, both and better appreciated, both by the people who live and reside here. We'd like to see more people sort of able to participate in sort of the vibrancy that exists sort of within the city, and we'd like for it to be better known, to others who are outside of the region.
Thank you very much. Well, we've reached, we're a little after 1 o'clock, and we said we do this for an hour. And I really, when I extended the invitation through Colette and so forth, I said I wanted to provide a platform for the campaign to reach the audience that we have at our webinars here at Nutter. And I think we achieved that today, and I'm grateful for your participation and for letting me participate with you and talk about the city. I've been here my entire life, and I'm still taken a little aback by the criticism of the racial issues sometimes. I have a story to end with a little bit. 2 years ago, I lost a friend with cancer, and she lived in South Boston. And the mayor decided to name a playground in her honor at the M Street Park. And my wife and I went, and they changed the time because of the mayor's schedule. So we had about an hour to kill. And we went down to Castle Island, and we sat and had a bottle of water. And who comes along the way walking but my good friend Marie St. Fleur. And Marie came walking along, and she sat with us for about a half hour and talked. And I said something to her very stupid. I said, Marie, when you were a kid, did you come out here? And she said, Bill, we weren't allowed out here. We weren't allowed out here. And I said, oh, I apologize. Today, however, if you start at Carson Beach, and you go all along to Castle Island, you're going to see people of all colors. It's great. It's just a change that has happened. Isn't that true, Colette?
True. Very true. Boston is not the Boston that I knew when I came here in the middle of busing. It is a wonderful, I hang out in South Boston all the time on the main drag. They have a lot of really good places there to eat, to have drinks. And, 30 years ago, I never would have thought I would go to South Boston. Now I love it. I mean, not Nick Collins, the senator, but Nick Martin, the communications director, actually lives in South Boston. He's a Black man. And so that tells you how much Boston has changed. But I think the narrative out there with the comedians and people outside of Boston continues. And, they don't know Boston like we know Boston. So we're going to help them. We're going to bring them along with this fabulous campaign.
I want to thank you all for today's program. I want to wish you well and thank you for all that you're doing. And I hope to see you all soon. And thank you all. And thank you for your kindness and friendship to me, and warmest regards to everybody.
Thank you, Bill. You're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.